Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the SFL podcast presented by 8 p.m. Music, live right now on twitch.tv. I am your host, Jack Brown, joined alongside by my analyst, Ramos Lynn, and instead of Mighty this week, we got owner of the Vancouver Legion, Andy Hamilton, on standby. And so, this week, we're going to be running down the same stuff that we've been doing the last couple weeks. We're going to start with these two men, their teams of the week. Then we're going to go into player of the week. We're going to break down all these games. We're going to do our predictions, talk about what's happening tonight. And then finally, of course, we're going to end off with our bold predictions. And first off, my man, Andy, what do you have to say is your team of the week?
Yeah, how's it going? Thanks for having me. My team of the week this week was St. Louis. For the first time ever, they have a winning record. Their defense had 8 sacks and 6 interceptions, which was led by the tackle Manny Eisenhower's 3 sacks, and Aaron Arrington with 3 interceptions, including a pick 6. And then Cody Scott, the wide receiver, balled out over 160 yards. That's a great day for him. St. Louis doing it and doing it big this season.
Yeah, they certainly are a team to be really hyped up about. Ramos, who's your team coming out of this week?
Well, for me, my team, the team of this week is the Houston Hyenas. I did commentate this game with Eric Vincent last week, and it was very, very impressive to see the Hyenas just throwing the ball all over the yard. They were able to put 40-plus points after not scoring a single touchdown the first 2 weeks of the season. That was extremely impressive. And it was the defense who really, for me, was just unbelievable. This defense with the linebacking core and the secondary, we had Michaels getting 2 interceptions this game. So I love the Hyenas moving forward. They were able to win this game big, 40-6. So, hey, beware of the Hyenas.
Yeah, beware of the Hyenas and beware of them. Andy, who was your player this week? We're going to now start with some SFL podcast player honors.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ramos there, who was talking about Houston. I'm going to go with DR Sim. Had to step it up this week, 7 receptions, 147 yards. The offense in Houston struggling a little bit. DR Sim shows up big for him, 2 touchdowns, long of 71 yards on 7 catches. That's 21 yards a catch, and able to pull in those 2 touchdowns. That definitely helps the Hyenas offense. He's my guy this week.
Yeah, he had twice the number of yards off the same amount of receptions from last week. Ramos, who's your player of the week?
Well, I think that he is going to be the defensive player of the year, or his shaping to be the defensive player of the year, for sure, rookie of the year as far as defense goes, with Fast Johnson. Charles Ball, again, had 3 interceptions for 45 yards return, had a pick 6, and he's incredible in the kickoff game as well, returning. He's just unbelievable. He's very active in the backfield. You see 8 tackles. So the safety from Tulsa is really, really doing great things this season. So it's going to be Charles Ball this week.
I cannot disagree with you there. Best turnover, most interceptions in the league. Now we're going to go into the Sunday slate, and starting it off, the Mexico City Aztecs are going to be flying over to London. Basically, it's going to be between the London Knights and the Mexico City Aztecs. Andy, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, an international matchup. This one going to be in Mexico City, not London, Jack. But either way, the game will get played. This is a very heavily favored London side. Number 7 in the offense, number 8 in the defense in the league for London. Mexico City, on the other hand, number 10 in defense, number 15 on offense. The key, though, will be Mexico City, who has the number 1 rush offense in the league. London has the number 4 worst rushing defense. What this is going to come down to is Slyn Shady versus Ray Bentley. It's going to be a good matchup in Mexico City, but I am taking Mexico City.
Alrighty. Also, at that same time, we have a duel out west between the San Francisco Sharks and the Dallas Roughnecks, 2 teams that have not had the best of luck so far this season. Ramos, what are we to expect from this?
Well, Dallas does need to stop giving up the deep ball, and they got the 2 corners this week to do so. They released a couple of offensive players. I think they released a tight end, and they got a couple corners. Same was San Francisco got another receiver because they just had one, so they got another receiver to help that offense. So I think it's going to be very important to see which rookies, new coming players can play better, because if the Dallas corners can play well against those receivers, I really like Dallas's chances. If Dallas keeps on defense, giving up the long ball, I think San Francisco really does have a big shot. I will still go Dallas because I think that those corners will be able to play well. And give me the Roughnecks probably in this game. Maybe a difference of 4 points.
Okay, that makes sense right there. And next up, we're going to head over to the Central Conference, where the Indianapolis Red Devils are going to be taking on the Oklahoma City Renegades. I highly doubt the ball's going to touch the ground all game. Andy, what do you have to say about this right here, man?
Yeah, it's going to be an impressive matchup. We talked a lot about Indianapolis and how they played last week against Tulsa in a very close, tough matchup between Indianapolis and Tulsa. Now heading up against Oklahoma City. They still boast the number 1 offense in the SFL. They're taking on the number 15 defense in Oklahoma City. Indy also boasting the 13th best defense, taking on the number 15 offense. So Oklahoma City down near the bottom of the table in terms of, rankings for their offense and defense, but they do lead the league in turnovers, which is kind of boding in Indianapolis's, way. It's going to definitely help them trying to get that defense up from number 13 with the 5-star DBs. This one could get a little bit ugly for Deacon Nickens and the Oklahoma City Renegades. I'm going with Indianapolis, excuse me.
Okay. Yeah, Indianapolis certainly a more powerful team compared to Oklahoma City Renegades. Next up, we're going to be heading out east for a brawl between the Carolina Skyhawks and the Queen City Corsairs. The Corsairs are obviously coming off that pretty bad loss to Tallahassee. Ramos, what is there to be seen from this game?
The 2 running backs. I think it's going to be a game where both teams, for them to win, I think that they will need to carry the ball at least 25 times, because I think that the running back that plays better this game will win for that team. It's going to be difficult for Carolina since Queen City is going to be at home, and that's why I'm leaning towards the Corsairs in this game. But I think that for Carolina to win, they need to run the ball between the tackles, and I do think that they also need to obviously stop the Queen City rushing attack. So I will lean towards Queen City, and it's going to be a game of just handing the ball off. Mark Biddix, AJ Caswell, I think are going to be very busy, just handing the ball off to the running backs. The offensive line has to play well, opening those holes. So Queen City, I like them in this game, probably by 3 points.
Going to see some real old-school smash-mouth football there. And we're going to now head down to the state of Texas. There's going to be an in-state brawl there between the Houston Hyenas and the San Antonio Vaqueros. What do you have to say about this matchup right here, Andy?
Yeah, this one's going to be a good one. Anytime Greg Corky and Damon Simeon get in the same building as coaches, it gets a little interesting. And now that they've started taking each other on as owners, it's been nothing but interesting. This matchup all time is 1-1. The home team won both matchups. So San Antonio with the home team has a little bit of a nod. They're carrying with them the number 6 offense, which is going to take on the number 2 defense against Houston. That's going to be interesting. Houston with the number 14 offense taking on the number 12 defense in San Antonio. So that's a little bit close. San Antonio's balanced off of a punter and will make Houston travel the length of the field. Houston has to show last week that it wasn't an abbreviation, that, their offense has some movement. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get that offense going against San Antonio's defense, and if they can keep up their defensive production against a team like San Antonio who has such a high-powered offense. With a matchup like this where it's 1-1 all time and the home team won, I'm going San Antonio. I can give the home team a nod again.
Yeah, and the last time these two met up, it was 55-0 in favor of San Antonio, the largest blowout or shutout the SFL has ever seen. And, of course, finally, before we go into the primetime matchups, we're having an in-state rivalry as may as well be, between the Chicago Wildcats and the St. Louis Gladiators. Ramos, what do we have to expect from this game?
Yeah, I will not pick a team to win because I'm calling this game with Andy. Andy will be in the play-by-play. I'll be as the color commentator. But I think that Chicago, I cannot overstate how important it is for them to win this game because they are 0-3, and in a very interesting Central Division, they cannot fall to 0-4. I don't think. And it's not saying that 0-4 is the end of the season for them because it's really not. But I think that falling to 0-4 is going to be probably difficult. So I think that Chicago, I like their defense. I think that the defense is playing very well. But they have to find their way on offense. They have to run the ball more consistently. They were only able to get less than 40 yards last week. So I think that J. Calvin Kim really needs to play better, and also E.T. King needs to step it up. So I'm not going to say who I think is going to win this game because I'm really not quite sure, to be honest. But I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup here where Chicago, if they are able to turn the corner, are going to be a very dangerous team for the rest of this season.
Oh, that makes sense right there. And now, of course, we head into the primetime slate. First off, on Sunday night, we have another Central Division brawl between the Sioux Falls Sparrows and the Tulsa Desperados, two very high-powered teams that are both undefeated currently. Andy, what do we have to see from this game?
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game when we run down the slate between these two teams. Tulsa at home is going to be bringing their 5th-ranked offense, which normally on a good day would look pretty solid, being top 5 in the SFL in offense. But when you're going against the number 1 defense, that's definitely not something you want to run into at home. Sioux Falls boasts a really good defense, and it's going to be a challenge for Tulsa to keep things moving against the Sparrows. On the defensive side of the ball for Tulsa, they are the number 6 defense. They're running into Sioux Falls' number 13 offense. Sioux Falls has got to get the offense going if they want to, match what that defense is going to bring to the table for the Sparrows on the road. Tulsa is one of 5 teams that averages 100-plus yards rushing. So that would be something that Sioux Falls is going to look to key on this week. Sioux Falls is giving up about 96 yards rushing, which is less than 100. So something's got to give there. It's going to be a tight defensive battle. I think Charles Ball was a baller last week. I think he makes a play to win this thing for Tulsa at home.
Yeah, Charles Ball, he's going to really make a big difference here, leading in interceptions in the entire league. Ramos, what do you have to say about this game? Are you going to agree with my man Andy over here?
Yes, I will, and I will piggyback off what he just said because I think that this is going to be a game that in the first quarter, I think is going to be both teams trying to find the other team's weakness, kind of like a boxing match, trading punches. Probably the first 2 quarters are going to be sometimes probably sloppy, a few punts. But I think that at the end is going to be the playmakers of each team. In this case, for example, Charles Ball, if he can make a big play, either with another pick six or if he can return a kick, if not to the score, probably to the 50-yard line, I think it's going to be very important. So I think it's going to be also a low-scoring affair. I don't think that Sioux Falls is going to be like the last Tulsa game, which ended 34-31. I think it's going to be in the late, in the high 10s, probably like 19-17, something like that. Probably those 2 teams will win with a late field goal. I will lean towards. This is difficult, man. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm not confident to say which team because they are just so evenly matched. Both teams 3-0, so I cannot quite tell. And the Who You Got agrees with me. I think this is a very, very close game in the Who You Got as well.
Yeah, I actually haven't checked the Who You Got. But yeah, if I remember correctly, it was a very close matchup. Then that next night, Monday, we have a battle between the Alaska Storm and the Atlanta Swarm. Both teams that are singular and start with the letter S, funnily enough. Andy, what do we have to see from this game?
Yeah, I think this is really one of the matchups of the week. Alaska has the number 3 offense, Atlanta boasting the number 7 defense. Alaska backing up that number 3 offense with a number 4 defense. Atlanta with the number 9 offense. That's kind of the low point. They're going to have to get that moving against that Alaska defense if they want to kind of win this game. BDG is Atlanta's bell cow and their leading receiver as well. The offense kind of keys through him. Ron Cochran, on the other hand, is kind of the league's most accurate quarterback. That bodes really well for Alaska. Optimus Klein leads the league in catches and is second in yards. That's a playmaker there for Alaska. That's something you want in a big game like this, is someone who can kind of run the table and carry a team, put the team on his back. Can Atlanta force someone else to beat them? That's kind of a good question that I've had when I've looked at this game. And can Alaska corral BDG Hollywood? I think when you look at the history of this matchup, Alaska is the 1-0 leader between these two teams all time. But when you look at the way Alaska did it, it was a road win. They're back here on the road in Atlanta again. From Mighty's notes, he's not picking a winner, but I'm just going to say it. I'm taking Alaska in this one.
Yeah, Alaska. When you only have to shut down one player in BDG Hollywood, it's not going to be too hard to win, I'm certain. And, well, what we're here for tonight, we have a bit of a showdown here between the Tallahassee Pride and the Vancouver Legion, this being the Vancouver Legion's home opener, two teams that have had very different paths throughout the season so far. Andy, what do you have to expect from your teams? And actually, take us to a bit of a deep dive about your history against Tallahassee.
Sure. Yeah, this is actually the first matchup between Tallahassee and Vancouver. We're going to welcome the Pride up to Canada. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. At home, we're actually 5-1 all time, which is actually something that is pretty impressive. When you look at the stats here and the way that this matchup breaks down, our team doesn't do very well against sacks. Tallahassee brings a lot of sacks, so that's something we tried to game plan for this week. On the road, Tallahassee is 1-0. We haven't had a home game this year. This is our opener, so it's really important for us to kind of come out and try and get the fans excited about the season. Tallahassee's only allowed 1 passing touchdown. We've allowed 8, which is not great when you're facing a team that does a lot of passing. We tried to correct that a little bit this week, so look out for us to try and do that. And the pass offense will really be one of the things that we'll be looking for here. Tallahassee is the number 2 offense. Ours is the number 16 defense. Their number 3 defense is taking on our number 11 offense. It'll be very interesting, but what it'll come down to is, can Tallahassee pass the ball? And can Tallahassee put pressure on Tom Pepper? And if not, Vancouver needs Jonathan Sanchez to have a big game. And we'll just have to see if he can do it or not. I obviously am not picking a winner in this one. I think it'll be close, though.
Definitely going to be a close matchup here. Ramos, what are the keys to the game?
Yeah, as far as keys to the game, this is a game that I give Vancouver a good shot in this one because, they're at home. They have had some weeks to correct some of the issues they have had and whatnot. So, in my opinion, number 1 is run between the tackles with Sanchez because this defense is really, really fast. If they run sideline to sideline, especially with a big back like Sanchez, I don't think that he will be able to outrun probably the defenders to the edge. So I think it's very important for them to run between the tackles. Then for Tallahassee, they need to get Kenny G involved early and often. Again, as we saw on the statistics, Vancouver has not been very stopping the pass, and Ken Gossett is one of the best receivers in the league. So I think that they need to get Kenny G involved early and often, even if it's with a slant route, with a quick out route, whatever in the ball. And also for Tallahassee as well, they have to put in Fats Johnson in one-on-one matchups against the Vancouver offensive line for him to eat as he has eaten all season long. And for Vancouver, it's going to be stop Fats Johnson, probably having a running back to block in passing situations, probably have a tie up, like bump him, get something to stop that guy because the worst thing for a quarterback is pressure up the middle, and that's what Fats Johnson has done all season long. So those are my 3 keys to the game.
Fats Johnson's going to have a real big game out there tonight. Andy, what are the keys to the game for your team and, well, for your opponent?
Yeah, rarely do you get to give the keys to your own game. For the Legion on the offensive side of the ball, it's just figure out how to get it done, whether it's by air or by ground. They like to call me FedEx because I don't care if it's by air or ground. You just got to get the job done, make sure the package gets in the end zone. It also says remain fair. I'm not 100% sure what Mighty meant by that. Protect the ball, essentially, is what I'm going to kind of put in that slot. I just want to make sure that if we don't have any turnovers, we don't give Tallahassee anything that they aren't prepared for. If we make them earn all the points that they're going to get, that's going to show up well for us and reflect on how the game ends up. And then for Tallahassee on their side of the ball, do your thing because it's been working for you. Don't change too much of the magic formula over there and try and force Tom into some pressure. Like Ramos was saying, if you can get Fats Johnson and that defensive line going, it could be a long day. But yeah, I think this will be a great game.
And we do apologize for having it being Mighty's keys to the game up there. It was a last-second swap in for Andy Hamilton. So now we go into our picks. First off, Ramos, give your locks and upsets.
Yeah, for my week 4 picks, my lock, I'm sorry, Andy. I deeply apologize. I have to go with Tallahassee over Vancouver. I really didn't want to do so. Number 1, because you're here. Number 2, because Tallahassee is in my division. But I just love that defensive line and that passing attack. I just think it's so OP right now. And for an upset, I like Houston. Houston was able to put in 40 points last week. They're finding their offense. The quarterback's playing better. Demond got DR Sim involved. So I like Houston over San Antonio. So those are my picks, which, hey, take it with a grain of salt because as you can see, they're not very good right now, but hopefully I can get better.
Yeah, hopefully you can actually start getting some better picks in right now. You're at 50% there, Ramos. Andy, why don't you show us what Mighty has got picked for us, which he has a very good track record right now at 5-1.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much just gonna not try and ruin it here. But before I do that, I do want to say, Mighty, to Ramos, I'm not too worried about you picking Tallahassee because I did look at your record and it's not great. So that bodes well for me. In Mighty's locks, he's taking Queen City over Carolina. I think that's a pretty solid bet. Queen City, we like to talk about them as the New England Patriots of this league because the way that they just kind of get things done, they don't win every game. They're going to lose some of these games that you kind of look at and you're like, I don't know why Queen City lost this game, but more often than not, picking them is the safe move. That's Mighty's lock for the week. The upset, Ramos, he's paying you back here. He's taking Mexico City over London. That would be a very interesting pick, especially with the way that London's been moving. And then when you look at the records, man, he knows what he's talking about. So these are some good picks from Mighty. I'm with him, behind him on both fronts.
Yeah, but as we were talking about before the show, if either of these two are wrong, he's going to blame you on this, right, Andy?
Yeah, that would sound about right, even though I'm just reading off of the screen at this point.
Well, of course, finally, folks, before we go, we're going to continue our new segment on this show called Bold Predictions. Ramos, give us your bold prediction.
Well, I do love Alaska's secondary and defense. I think this might sound crazy. I think Atlanta will have less than 125 yards passing against Alaska because 2 things. I really like Alaska's secondary, and number 2, I think Alaska will try to rely more on BDG Hollywood to carry the offense. So as my bold prediction, I have that the quarterback for Atlanta will get less than 125 yards passing.
Now that right there is quite the bold prediction. And finally, before we go, Andy, give us a bold prediction.
Yeah, again, these are Mighty's bold predictions. He's going that road teams are going to go 7-2 this week, just like what happened in week 1. That's a very interesting pick. I don't know if I can get behind it because my team's at home this week. But I maybe if Mighty wants to let us be one of those 2 teams, I can get behind this. Very interesting. Usually you've seen the home teams kind of take the lead in the SFL and win more games often than not, but it seems like every time someone calls it out and says that home teams are the only ones winning, the road teams start to win again. That's a little shout out to Ronnie Nickens, who used to be on the podcast. He used to do that. And then the road teams would start winning. So Mighty's going to say that the road teams are going 7-2. He's either going to get it right or it's going to flip, and the home teams are going to go 7-2. Would be my guess.
Yeah, it seems like it's always polar opposites. It's always polar opposites. And of course, right before we go, this is a reminder that if you want to tweet us your bold predictions, it's as simple as tagging the SFL on Twitter and typing out your own personal bold prediction with the hashtag bold predictions. And with that wraps up this edition of the SFL podcast presented by APM Music. I am Jack Brown, and alongside my analysts, Ramos Lynn and Andy Hamilton. And we'd like to thank you for tuning in. Now go and tune in to watch the Vancouver Legion take on the Tallahassee Pride.